This is the 150th anniversary of the Emancipation Proclamation this year, and the 50th anniversary of the March on Washington, of the I Have a Dream speech that was delivered there, also of the letter from the Birmingham jail, and this summer will make it exactly 50 years since Medgar Evers was killed, and that came before Malcolm or Martin were. So, Dr. Joseph, you call 50 years ago, 1963, a watershed year. Set the scene for us briefly.
All right, 1963 is one of the most important years of the 20th century. First, it's going to be the centennial of the Emancipation Proclamation. It's also going to be the year that James Baldwin, and James Baldwin is really the most important writer of the post-war period as far as I'm concerned. Openly gay, human rights activist, somebody who taught the world so much. But James Baldwin's The Fire Next Time is the most important book published during the heroic period of the Civil Rights Movement. And in that book, Baldwin really diagnoses racial slavery as the crucible through which Americans have to go through for citizenship. 63 is also the year of Birmingham. Birmingham, Alabama is literally on fire in April, May, and June of 63 when Dr. King connects with a local leader, Fred Shuttlesworth, who recently passed away. Reverend Fred Shuttlesworth is one of the most important local leaders of the 20th century. Without him, there would be no Civil Rights Act and no Voting Rights Act. And 63 is the year when German shepherds and fire hoses become iconic. German shepherds that are sicked on American citizens, because that's what black people were. They were American citizens who had German shepherds and fire hoses sicked on them. It's the year of the Children's Crusade, when in May of 63, 7 and 8 and 9 and 10-year-olds, at least 1,100 of them, are arrested in Birmingham, Alabama. It's also the year where John Kennedy finally comes out in a robust way for civil rights. As far as I'm concerned as a historian, Kennedy's finest hour is June 11th, 1963, when he makes really an extemporaneous live speech where he talks about a revolution that's occurring in the United States and a revolution that's going to be nonviolent or violent. And right after Kennedy makes that speech, and Kennedy makes that speech right in the aftermath of Arthurine Lucy desegregating the University of Alabama. Right after Kennedy makes that speech, in the early hours of the morning the next day, June 12th, Medgar Evers is assassinated. So there's really some ironic and iconic symmetry there. June 23rd, 1963 is the largest civil rights demonstration until the March on Washington, and that's in Detroit, the Great Walk for Freedom, where Dr. King delivers his first version and vision of the I Have a Dream speech. That's really an important speech because King is on stage with black political radicals, including the Reverend Albert Clegg, leader of the Shrine of the Black Madonna, in Detroit. 63 is also, of course, the year of the March on Washington. And when we think about the March on Washington, that's a march for jobs and justice, but King's 17-minute speech is a revolutionary speech. And I'll say that again, it is a revolutionary speech where King talks about reparations, he talks about institutional racism, and he says to transform American democracy, we actually have to go to jail together. September 15th, 4 little black girls are going to be assassinated at the 16th Street Baptist Church in Birmingham, Alabama. That's the same church that Condoleezza Rice, future Secretary of State, her family went to. November 22nd, John F. Kennedy is assassinated. One thing I should say in closing is that 63 is also the year that Dr. King writes the letter from Birmingham jail. And when we think about King's letter explains to Americans why black people and really the United States can't wait for citizenship and democracy. And King's letter really evokes one of his best lines when he says that the civil rights movement is about bringing the nation back to what he calls the great wells of democracy that were dug deep by the founding fathers.